Debuting in 1990, Back to the Future Part 3 took Marty McFly and Doc Brown on one final ride, straight into the Old West. From a perilous hanging stunt to a star-studded cast of Western legends, this conclusion to the iconic trilogy blended time travel antics with cowboy showdowns to create an unforgettable adventure. But how much do you really know about it? From near-death experiences on set to surprising cameos that almost happened, here are things you didn't know about Back to the Future Part 3. 15. The Three Old Men of the Tavern, veterans of the Western film. Inside the Hill Valley Tavern of 1885, Marty stumbles upon three elderly gentlemen who at first glance seem like regular townsfolk passing time over a cup of whiskey. Yet, each of them carries a legacy firmly rooted in the rich tradition of Western cinema, giving this scene a captivating authenticity. Pat Buttram's distinctive voice and comedic timing were fixtures in numerous old westerns, and he later became beloved for his roles in Disney productions. Meanwhile, Harry Carey Jr. brought a family pedigree of the genre. His father, Harry Carey, was one of the silent era's most celebrated cowboy stars. This inheritance adds a poignant layer to the moment, symbolizing how the Old West of Hollywood lore melds seamlessly with the world of Back to the Future. Rounding out the trio is Dub Taylor, a character actor whose face popped up in countless frontier-themed films spanning decades. The decision to place these three icons side by side was more than simple casting. It was Robert Zemeckis' way of paying homage to the classic Western spirit. By infusing real veterans of the genre into an otherwise comedic time travel story, the film gains a sense of reverence for what came before. It's a brief moment, but it speaks volumes about bridging cinematic history with imaginative storytelling. For anyone who grew up enthralled by tales of pioneers, outlaws, and dusty saloons, spotting these familiar faces is like greeting old friends. That's the kind of delightful, multi-layered detail that makes Back to the Future Part 3 endure in fans' hearts long after the credits roll. 14. The DeLorean's Special Railroad Wheels. In the third chapter of this legendary trilogy, the DeLorean faces a challenge that no flux capacitor foresaw, speeding along railroad tracks in the late 19th century. The creative minds behind the movie had to convert the iconic time-traveling car into a makeshift train, complete with steel rims tailored to grip the rails. This transformation wasn't merely cosmetic. A specialized engineering team reinforced the car's underbody to handle the vibrations and potential hazards of real railway lines. Even a small miscalculation could have derailed both the DeLorean and the film's climactic scenes. The brief on-screen moments when Marty and Doc pilot the DeLorean across rustic tracks are packed with tension, humor, and ingenuity. They embody the movie's central theme of adapting modern inventions to a bygone era, spotlighting the sense of wonder that emerges when high-tech meets horse and wagon days. We see the characters grapple with everything from running out of gasoline to scheduling the perfect moment for their runaway locomotive to shove them straight into 88 miles per hour. But beneath the spectacle lies a testament to cinematic craftsmanship. By showcasing the DeLorean in such an unexpected setting, the filmmakers remind us that no idea is too outlandish if done with passion and precision. The steel wheels become more than just a plot device. They reflect the entire trilogy's spirit, innovative, daring, and always a bit playful. Decades later, fans still marvel at how seamlessly that sleek 1980s car navigates the dusty frontier, proving that the best stories can hop rails between eras without losing momentum. 13. FRISBIE, Pie Company, and the Improvised FRISBIE. One of the film's most chuckle-worthy bits arrives when Marty wields a simple pie tin to rescue Doc from trouble, tossing it like a modern frisbee. While it seems like a random comedic flourish, that tin's label, FRISBIE, nods to a real historical tidbit. In the late 19th century, college students discovered that empty pie tins from the FRISBIE Pie Company made for perfect flying discs. Over time, the concept evolved into the plastic disc we now call the FRISBIE. With Marty brandishing that tin, the filmmakers cleverly insinuate that he inadvertently invented the pastime for Western folks, weaving real-life trivia into a playful moment. This brief scene encapsulates the movie's broader genius in blending nostalgic charm with imaginative twists. Instead of hammering home a history lesson, the script keeps the reference lighthearted and swift. Yet for those in the know, it's a treat recognizing the subtle shout-out to an actual origin story. Even viewers unfamiliar with that piece of history can sense the whimsical spirit at play. Marty's futuristic knowledge meets a simpler era, sparking new customs before their time. What's truly captivating is how effectively it captures the thematic core of Back to the Future Part 3. Small actions can ripple through the ages, forging unexpected changes. Marty doesn't plan on revolutionizing recreational sports, he just wants to save Doc. But that playful fling stands as a testament to the trilogy's magic. By layering modern references onto Old West settings, each scene offers a wink and a grin to fans who enjoy catching these Easter eggs scattered throughout. That mix of clever humor and historical spin is part of what keeps audiences enthralled decades after release. 12. Mary Steenburgen's previous time travel experience. Long before she stepped into the role of Clara Clayton, the spirited schoolteacher who steals Doc's heart, Mary Steenburgen already journeyed through time on screen. In the 1979 film Time After Time, she starred opposite Malcolm McDowell as H.G. Wells, diving into a tale of science fiction that brought Victorian England face to face with modern society. That earlier experience felt almost prophetic when she found herself cast in another story where time itself bends to the will of invention. Jokingly, she hinted that she seemed destined to hop through centuries yet again. As Clara, Steenburgen embodies a mix of classic Western heroine and forward-thinking adventurer. She's not merely a damsel waiting to be rescued. She's Doc Brown's intellectual match, sharing his curiosity about the universe and determination to remain true to her values. The connection between her earlier role and this one enriches her performance, as if she's simultaneously paying tribute to sci-fi storytelling and the wide-open possibility of new frontiers. Her character stands out because she brings emotional depth that complements the film's comedic layers. By weaving an actress with actual time travel credentials into the cast, the film cleverly underscores its own heritage of blending science fiction with heartfelt drama. Steenburgen's history in the genre adds a subtle extra layer of fun for aficionados who recall Time After Time. This meta detail is precisely the type of cinematic coincidence that makes the Back to the Future trilogy so enjoyable. It's a puzzle box of references, callbacks, and ironic nods to storytelling traditions. Clara Clayton thus becomes more than a love interest. She's a living bridge to another era of sci-fi film, carefully folded into the Western backdrop. 11. The famous Sierra No. 3 locomotive. On the dusty rails of 1885, the powerful locomotive that appears in Back to the Future. Part 3 isn't just any steam engine. It's the illustrious Sierra Railroad No. 3. 3. Often dubbed the movie star locomotive, it has rumbled through a long list of classic westerns spanning generations. For film buffs who track the machinery used in Hollywood, spotting that familiar shape and puffing smoke signals an instant wave of nostalgia. The producer's choice to include Sierra No. 3 wasn't random. It was a nod to the lineage of cinematic westerns, anchoring the film in an authentic frontier flavor. The locomotive's cameo underlines the production's devotion to the gritty textures of the Old West. It's not a sleek modern train repainted for effect. This is the real deal, with all its creaks, moans, and historic flair. Whether it's pulling into station or hurtling down the tracks, Sierra No. 3 accentuates the stakes in the movie's dramatic finale. When Marty and Doc bet their fate on a raging locomotive to catapult the DeLorean back to the future, every hiss of steam and every clang of metal feels absolutely vital. That authenticity fuses perfectly with the trilogy's signature fusion of whimsy and heart. Even viewers who have never heard of the engine's storied past can feel the gravitas it brings to the chase sequences. By using such a storied piece of equipment, Back to the Future Part 3 cements its bond with the Western genre it lovingly spoofs. Sierra No. 3 is more than a backdrop. It's practically a co-star, fueling the tension in that crucial race against time. This marriage of factual locomotive legend with a fantasy-laced plot is quintessential to the film's enduring charm. 10th part of a two-movie deal. The ingenious notion of filming Back to the Future, Part 2 and Part 3 back-to-back, wasn't a typical move in Hollywood at the time. Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, fresh off the success of the first movie, negotiated a groundbreaking agreement with Universal Pictures to craft two sequels in a single production cycle. While this method has become more common now, with franchises like The Matrix and Pirates of the Caribbean pulling similar feats, it was a bold experiment in the late 80s. For nearly a year, the cast and crew navigated an intense schedule, juggling the final edits of the second film while simultaneously capturing the Western escapades of the third. Such parallel tasks demanded not just stamina, but meticulous coordination. Zemeckis found himself jetting between sets and editing bays, ensuring both halves of the continuing storyline aligned seamlessly. This labor of love was undeniably exhausting, yet it allowed the trilogy to maintain a narrative momentum rarely seen in big-budget productions. Fans got a tangible taste of this ambitious plan when Back to the Future. Part 2 concluded with a teaser trailer for Part 3. Zemeckis wanted to reward loyal audiences who'd stuck around since Marty McFly's first accidental leap into 1955. Instead of leaving them in suspense, he teased the Western setting, stoking excitement about the final chapter. The payoff was enormous. The trilogy's concluding act felt like a natural extension, rather than a late addition. Ultimately, filming two sequels in unison imbued the saga with a cohesive spirit that resonates to this day, proving that a visionary approach to production can yield cinematic magic. 9. Western origins. Long before the idea of steam trains, tumbleweeds, and quick-draw shootouts graced the Back to the Future saga, Michael J. Fox casually mentioned that he'd love to visit the Old West if he could truly travel in time. That offhand remark sowed the seeds for the trilogy's big finale. Director Robert Zemeckis locked onto the notion of blending modern comedic flair with the mythic atmosphere of a 19th-century frontier town, recognizing that the Western setting could showcase Marty and Doc's personalities in wholly new ways. The shift to 1885 was cleverly foreshadowed throughout the second film. Whether it was the time circuits malfunctioning to display that year, or Doc's playful dream of exploring the lawless West, each subtle nod built anticipation. Moviegoers might have spotted the Mad Dog Tannen reference or glimpsed the whimsical pattern on Doc's Hawaiian shirt, emblazoned with cowboys and trains. These Easter eggs teased the grand adventure awaiting in the final installment. By anchoring the film in a setting so radically different from both 1955 and the futuristic 2015, the narrative gained fresh stakes. The Old West introduced hazards that made the DeLorean's standard tricks moot: no easy gas station refills, no futuristic tech to salvage. This forced Marty and Doc to rely on courage, cunning, and luck. Plus, the wide-open prairies, gritty saloons, and dusty main streets gave the characters room for deeper self-discovery. At the heart of it all was that initial spark, a wish to meet cowboys, crystallizing into a cinematic chapter that stands out as both homage and evolution in the Back to the Future timeline. 8. Spiritual journey. While the earlier films delivered a lively mix of teen drama, comedic chaos, and frantic run-ins with paradoxes, Back to the Future Part 3 digs deeper into the emotional arcs of its leading duo. Doc Brown, once purely the eccentric inventor, confronts feelings he never considered: love, vulnerability, and the urge to put personal happiness ahead of scientific obsession. Meanwhile, Marty McFly, typically quick-witted and unflappable, learns a tough lesson about pride and rash decisions. The redemptive power of growth underpins this Western chapter, carving out a more introspective tone than its predecessors. This shift in energy doesn't mean the film loses its sense of fun. Instead, every comedic skirmish or tricky time travel scenario channels a deeper undercurrent. How do we define ourselves when pushed beyond our comfort zones? The lawless frontier amplifies these dilemmas, forcing Marty and Doc to adapt to a harsh world without the usual safety nets. Marty, wrestling with the aftermath of being labeled chicken, must decide whether honor is worth endangering his own life. Doc, having professed that love distracts from science, now finds himself smitten with Clara, challenging everything he thought made him tick. The Western terrain becomes a metaphor for personal frontiers. By stepping into uncharted territory, both literally and emotionally, the characters evolve in ways they never would have in their typical 1980s domain. This aspect of self-discovery and reflection resonates strongly with viewers who enjoy more than just comedic one-liners or futuristic gadgets. In Back to the Future Part 3, the ride is as much about inner transformation as it is about a souped-up DeLorean reaching that magic speed of 88 miles per hour. The result is a finale that feels warmly human and richly rewarding. 7. Child Persuasion. When Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale brainstormed how to wrap up the saga, they realized they had already played out the possibilities for Marty's family. So the spotlight shifted toward Doc Brown, the zany genius who always seemed to exist on the margins of normal life. To humanize him further, the script introduced Clara Clayton, a woman with her own thirst for knowledge and adventure. Intriguingly, the actress who would portray Clara initially said no. Mary Steenburgen, though flattered, wasn't quite sold on stepping into another time travel yarn. But her children, devoted fans of the Back to the Future phenomenon, urged her to reconsider. Parental love trumped any hesitation, and she took the role. Clara isn't just a love interest. She's an intellectual equal to Doc, passionate about science and stargazing. In many ways, she mirrors his curiosity and moral compass, making their bond feel authentic. This pivot in storytelling highlights the franchise's willingness to expand beyond Marty's immediate world. By exploring Doc's capacity for devotion, the film underscores the broader theme of destiny versus free will. Doc famously warns Marty about meddling with time, yet he finds himself torn between returning to his rightful era and staying with Clara. It's a surprising turn for a character once defined by wild hair, lab coats, and frantic exclamations about 1.21 gigawatts. Now he contemplates settling down in a dusty corner of 1885, fueling the story's heart. Clara's role enriches the narrative tapestry, proving that love can be the ultimate catalyst for change. Moreover, the real-life anecdote of Mary Steenburgen's kids convincing her to join underscores how the Back to the Future spirit transcends generational boundaries, uniting parents, children, and fans in an affectionate time-hopping odyssey. 6. Injuries. Despite the film's cheerful undertones, Back to the Future Part 3 had its fair share of literal bumps and bruises. Behind the scenes, the star-studded dance where Doc and Clara twirl under lanterns and fiddles led to Mary Steenburgen tearing a ligament in her foot, a consequence of energetic choreography. Yet she powered through to sustain the dreamy atmosphere of a Wild West celebration. An even scarier mishap unfolded when a stunt involving a noose went awry. In the scene, Mad Dog Tannen attempts to hang Marty, but reality came dangerously close to tragedy. Michael J. Fox was actually left choking, unconscious before the crew realized something was amiss. It wasn't until Fox shared this ordeal in his book Lucky Man that fans fully grasped how close the incident came to derailing production altogether. Such accidents highlight the precarious line between cinematic magic and real-world peril. Though the movie offers escapist fun, the artistry requires actors to put themselves at risk. In retrospect, these behind-the-scenes challenges deepen appreciation for every carefully coordinated shot. The comedic sheen of the final product belies the determination and courage that the cast displayed to bring the story to life safely. Perhaps it's fitting that a saga about altering timelines would have dramatic near misses. Just as Marty and Doc repeatedly skirt disaster on screen, the real team had to overcome genuine threats to see their vision through. When we watch them dance under string lights or brawl in dusty thoroughfares, we're reminded that the line between fiction and reality can sometimes be as perilously thin as a rope around the neck. 5th, Mayor Reagan. Audiences who remember the iconic line about Ronald Reagan being president in 1985 got a kick out of the film's playful jab at the actor-turned-statesman. Reagan himself enjoyed the joke, reportedly delighted by the reference. The creators of Back to the Future. Part 3 nearly took that gag to the next level by inviting Reagan to appear as the 1885 mayor of Hill Valley. The timing was perfect. Reagan had just finished his presidency, and cameo appearances by former officials and media were not unheard of. Yet the plan didn't pan out, as Reagan politely declined, leaving fans to dream about what might have been. Still, the notion underscores the series' flair for weaving pop culture references into a time-twisting narrative. Just as Marty spontaneously adopts the pseudonym Clint Eastwood when backed into a corner, the filmmakers wanted to create a memorable cameo, linking 1980s history to a place anchored nearly a century in the past. The comedic potential was sky-high, especially given that 1955 Doc Brown had famously scoffed, "Ronald Reagan? The actor?" With a Reagan cameo, it would have come full circle, prompting fresh laughs and winks at the audience. Even though it never happened, the story behind this near cameo demonstrates the trilogy's boldness in bridging fiction and real-world figures. The line between cinematic fantasy and historical reality often blurs throughout Back to the Future, and cameo stunts like these emphasize how easily the movies play with timeline crossovers. Sometimes, all it takes is an imaginative script, a clever sense of humor, and a willingness to poke fun at the cultural zeitgeist, something the franchise excelled at, even without Reagan's official seal of approval. Fourth, filming location. While the first two adventures primarily relied on the Universal backlot for their take on Hill Valley, Back to the Future Part 3 needed an authentic Western vibe. Thus, the production team ventured to Sonora, California, a region steeped in rugged landscapes and historical gold rush towns. They constructed an entire 1885-era Hill Valley from scratch on a stretch of vacant land that the local authorities allowed them to use rent-free, provided they left the structures intact afterward. The plan was to transform the set into a Western-themed attraction, bridging real local heritage with Hollywood flair. Shooting on location lent the film a visual richness that stands apart from its predecessors. Towering buttes, expansive skies, and genuine frontier dust set the stage for Marty and Doc's precarious quest to fix the DeLorean. Moreover, filming in places like Monument Valley and Jamestown gave the footage a cinematic scope reminiscent of classic John Ford epics. Cast and crew often remarked on the serenity these rural areas offered, a stark contrast to the hustle and bustle of studio lots. However, the production itself remained a whirlwind. Coordinating train schedules, wrangling horses, and ensuring period authenticity demanded meticulous planning. Despite the logistical hurdles, the payoff is evident in every frame. Sun-drenched hills, wooden storefronts, and dirt roads evoke a version of Hill Valley that feels genuinely plucked from the 19th century. For viewers, it's a feast for the eyes. Whether you're a Western aficionado or simply someone who appreciates a dash of historical ambiance, the final product proves that a well-chosen location can be as integral to storytelling as the script or the actors, anchoring fantasy in a tangible setting that resonates with warmth and realism. 3. Western sound. Alan Silvestri's signature musical motifs had already defined much of the trilogy's identity, but Part 3 challenged him to blend that familiar heroic theme with the unmistakable twang of Western cinema. The result is a dynamic score that balances traditional Back to the Future fanfare with homages to composers like Elmer Bernstein, famed for Western classics like The Magnificent Seven. Strings and brass still soar, but now there's a distinctly frontier flavor, rolling snares, bold horns, and banjo-esque flourishes weaving through the melodies. This thoughtful approach underscores the film's hybrid nature. It's not merely a Western nor just a futuristic romp. From the moment Marty steps onto dusty streets to the high-stakes locomotive finale, Silvestri's compositions enhance both tension and mirth. Each chord progression resonates with the risk of gunfights and the wonder of time travel. Layered amid these orchestrations is a cheerful cameo by ZZ Top. Their track, Double Back, merges 1980s rock sensibilities with a toe-tapping country vibe, underscoring the town's celebratory festival. Their brief appearance, complete with period-appropriate costumes, exemplifies Back to the Future's penchant for playful anachronism. The music video they produced, featuring clips of them jamming among the cast, further cements the film's identity as a joyful collision of eras. Some fans recall how it seemed simultaneously fitting and delightfully out of place, a microcosm of why the movie works. By fusing rock rhythms, classic Western scoring, and the beloved Back to the Future leitmotif, the soundtrack captures every facet of the film's spirit. It's a melodic tapestry that resonates equally with longtime Western lovers, fans of modern rock, and anyone who's ever dreamed of riding off into a sunset at precisely 88 miles per hour. 2. Dark deleted scene. Even though Back to the Future Part 3 is often praised for its lighter touch, there's one scene that delved into unexpectedly grim territory and never made it to the final cut. This deleted moment featured Marshall Strickland encountering Mad Dog Tannen in a lethal showdown. The footage reportedly showed Tannen killing the Marshal in cold blood, lingering just long enough to let the gravity of the act sink in. Test audiences and creative instincts ultimately deemed it too somber for the film's overall tone, prompting its removal. This revelation came to light when the DVD release offered fans a glimpse behind the curtain, showcasing how the story could have ventured down a harsher path. While the existing version retains threats of violence, particularly from the menacing Tannen clan, it balances those dangers with comedic beats and hopeful character development. A bleak murder sequence might have shattered the film's buoyant charm. It also risked pushing Mad Dog Tannen's villainy from entertainingly over-the-top into nightmarish territory. The decision to clip it underscores the care Zemeckis and his team took in maintaining the right tonal blend. In a saga that often embraces whimsy, where pies become flying discs and locomotives launch sports cars, grisly violence would clash with the established spirit. Still, it's a testament to the filmmakers' boldness that they even explored such a dark route. For fans fascinated by alternate versions, this cut scene remains an intriguing what-if scenario, reminding us that even the friendliest time travel adventures can possess a hidden edge. First sixth highest-grossing movie of 1990. Upon its May 1990 release, Back to the Future, Part 3 soared at the box office, ultimately clinching the title of the sixth highest-grossing film that year. Though it didn't surpass the earnings of Part 2, the movie still raked in a hefty sum, proving that audiences were eager to see how Marty and Doc's escapades wrapped up. Critics lauded its satisfying conclusion to the series, applauding the balance between comedic nostalgia and deeper emotional undercurrents. Some naysayers complained that the Western backdrops looked more TV set than genuine frontier, but many fans found the dusty saloons and rugged canyons downright cinematic. For longtime devotees, the film's quieter, more introspective tone was a welcome change. It offered a chance to linger on character arcs and soak in the possibilities of a final farewell. Yet younger viewers, raised on the adrenaline of hoverboards and futuristic skylines in Part 2, occasionally voiced disappointment at the seemingly slower pace. Over time, however, public opinion has softened, and many now praise Part 3 for its unique atmosphere and heartfelt resolution. The franchise's central premise, time travel that reshapes both individuals and families, culminates on a hopeful note that resonates across generations. Finishing with that spectacular locomotive sequence, the trilogy leaves no loose ends. Doc finds love and self-realization, Marty learns humility and a better sense of self, and Hill Valley stands proud in the frontier. Earning a spot in the 1990s top box office rankings only cemented the film's legacy. Decades later, audiences still admire the way it closes a cinematic odyssey spanning youthful dreams, futuristic marvels, and Western frontier bravado. It's that rare final installment that doesn't just wrap up a story, but boldly rides off into the sunset in style. Even decades after its big-screen finale, Back to the Future Part 3 still captures imaginations with its blend of frontier grit and futuristic magic. Whether you first watched Marty and Doc in a packed theater or discovered them at home, there's no denying this trilogy's lasting impact on pop culture. Which piece of trivia surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories from your favorite classic films.